Welcome to the Dark Arts Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson.
How you doing?
Happy
How's it
Thursday.
going? How's it going out there? I am wearing my Salem shirt that was given to me by Anne Marie Young.
That's right.
On our trip to Salem because I miss Halloween. Yes. We miss Halloween. And I think we're going to do a little charity show sometime between now and Christmas. Maybe title it Screw Christmas, Give Me Back My Halloween. Or just thinking about it. I don't know. For some good cause, I want my Halloween back. What's going on, Anthony? Is he out there?
Hi, Anthony.
Podcast. What's up, paranormal brothers and sisters? What's going on? We got a great show for you guys tonight. We've had these guests on before. Hello, Carol. But we've only had them on individually, and they work together as a team. We're really excited to talk to them both. Let me tell you a little bit about them.
Hi, Carol.
Leslie Mitchell-Clark is coming on. She'll discuss her use of skilled hypnotherapeutic regression in working with individuals who believe that they have had extra / ultra terrestrial contact or other experiences of high strangeness, along with Wes G. Roberts, who after 20 years decided to seek professional advice from Leslie, as it turns out, for a consciously recalled experience he had in the 1980s. And he will also talk about his research with experiencers, abductees, and the not-so-common occurrence of information downloads. We love this topic. Let's bring them right on. Welcome, Leslie and Wes. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, Kristen. Ja, svenska. Jag älskar dig. My middle name is Kristen. My mother is Swedish. So but I know you got the Norwegian spelling, but that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes, that's wonderful, though. I'm actually both Swedish and Norwegian.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're both Swedish and Norwegian.
She makes a mean meatball, let me tell you.
You know we do, baby. You know we do. Those Swedish meatballs, man. Because in Sweden, believe it or not, and in Norway, that's soul food. It is.
Yes.
Because the meatballs themselves are supposedly made up of, whatever is left over from the various, pieces of animal protein that have been, consumed, so they can have anything in them, pork, lamb, beef, whatever. I make mine with ground turkey, but traditionally, and in Scandinavia years ago, there were no restaurants open, so the only like food, like party food, would be these carts and meatballs. That's it. Well, there you
That's
go.
right. I can live like
And
that.
now you have the history of meatballs right in front of you. Okay.
Right? We were just talking about like Muppet sounds earlier, right?
Yeah.
Now we're bringing
I
up
know. We
Swedish
need the
chef.
Swedish chef, right?
Want to make a meatball. Something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Work.
Doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie.
Okay, that was good.
Oh, that is
Oh,
a
Lord.
good way to kick off a show. I love that.
Okay.
Great. We like that one. Man. This is good. We're going to get into some kind of serious subject matter. So it's good that we can talk about this.
Indeed. Well, maybe we'll go into the Hyperborean areas, so it'll be
Yeah.
also encompassing our ancestors, Kristen. There you go.
Absolutely. And the Muppets were a childhood experience. And as it
Yeah.
turns out, a lot of abductees have childhood experiences too. And I
They
believe
do.
that was true of you, Wes, right?
Nice segue there, Chris.
Yes.
You came here.
Really well done. Carry on, Miss.
So I'm going to say that I am talentless in this area, but I have my hidden talents. They're not coming out tonight, but they're there. So yeah, I actually didn't know about the childhood incidents until I got through my first or second hypnotherapy session. I honestly thought that this was a unique occurrence I had in the 1980s, but these are never a one-off. So I found out about the childhood experience, and I was shocked. And then we sort of retraced some of my steps, and then I filled in the rest of the gaps consciously. So it's been a real ride.
Tell us about what happened and what led you to your regression therapy.
Yeah, surely. In the 1980s, I had a really unique, I'm going to call it 5-part experience, or set on 5 stages, if you want to think about it that way, because that's what they do. So it started out at an airport. I'll give you the skinny of it, and if you want more details, you can tell me. So it started out at an airport in the middle of the night, and I was watching planes take off, and then one of them burst into flames. So, obviously some of this was physical abduction and some was psychophysical, some of it was spirit abduction. So at this point, I don't know which of the two, but the second phase had me end up on the plane in the rear washroom. And it was, to me, I'd taken countless plane trips before then. And so it was normal, except that I was crouched in the rear washroom wondering what the heck was going on. But the sounds and the feeling of being on a plane was all very down to earth, so to speak. So then I knew it was going down, and I was going down with it. And I honestly, truly felt that was the end for me. And so bang, it hit the ground. There was a period of blackness. I don't know how long that lasted. I'm going to have to say a period of missing time, which is probably appropriate for this. And then, I ended up walking into a large room that was pristine enough to think it had been made up just for me. And I would be surprised if that were true. Everything was unruffled. Everything was perfect. No dust, no anything, no noise, just no nothing. But all the furniture, all the accoutrement, all the things on the walls, the pictures in frames and in a photo album, which I got to look through, with one major anomaly being a 1940s or 50s era black rotary phone. So that was pretty interesting. They plucked that from me somewhere. And then a little black book beside it. And at the point where I thought, this is very weird and I'm getting very confused and I don't know who I am. Was I that person there or some other person here? They ushered me out. They walked me across what appeared to be an airfield, and there was lots of us, lots of people. Each of us had a little helper on each side, not a little gray, just a bare-skinned, brown-skinned helper. And we walked to a facility where I had to enter into a cylinder. And, it's funny, my partner, Anna, and I were just watching again tonight, Arrival. And so
I like that movie a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Love it. Canadian. Sorry.
Yeah. Good. So, near the end, Amy enters into this cylinder. Tonight it really got me, and it normally does not, because I entered a cylinder, not like that, not that big, personal size, bright lights on the top, bright lights on the bottom, motion.
Like an MRI kind of thing, or bigger?
Yeah, but standing. Like an elevator. Like an elevator. So the doors whoosh close, and I was confused about the motion. I was confused about the bright lights. I had to shield my eyes. And when the doors opened, I was back at the airport. That's the quick version of it.
Wow.
May I ask you a question? When you said you were flipping through a photo album, what did the photo album have in it?
Yeah, so it had photos of me. Didn't look like me, but let's say it was me. My then ex, who wasn't my then ex, and the whole family, sisters and everything. And I bought into, I have to say, the thought that this was my family, but didn't look like me, and didn't look like my sisters and didn't look like my ex, but we were all in the photo album. You know, like you just open up, oh, there you are, there you are at a party, there you are at a family gathering.
Here's your
And
memories. It was like they were presenting your memories somehow,
Mhm.
or
yeah,
drawing
not
from you.
ones that I knew though, Chris, not ones that I knew.
That's
So I didn't know. And that's where I think the confusion came from when I was in this unit, this apartment or whatever it was. It was like, wait a sec now, do I want to go home or am I home?
Mm.
Right.
interesting.
And I just want our audience to know you're a college professor.
Yes.
Mhm.
So like you know what you're talking about. You've got your faculties, so to speak.
Faculties, right?
And maybe tenure at this point. Who
Oh, there's a
knows?
little tenure. All right. Insert drum roll. Yeah, you know, you're a serious guy. And this is the stuff that, you know, is you have experienced.
Well, gosh, I teach tech.
Right.
This is what I teach. I'm very logical and very organized, and you have to be, right. And I've been at this for 3 decades. So it was so odd to discover this other side is equally prominent.
Greg Costa after Cosmic Records.
Yeah,
I mean,
you never know. I don't know.
I'd just like to,
Rick.
insert in there for just a moment that these anachronistic experiences that
Mm.
are, where these experiences of staging, which are,
Yes.
really, psionic projections by, various beings, but these kinds of experiences where, there's like a strange thing out of place, like, Wes's, 1956 phone, and they're kind of almost heartwarmingly inaccurate in a way
Mhm.
because they were obviously accessing aspects of his subconscious to create his comfortable apartment. But as I always say, they also picked up a few episodes of I Love Lucy while they were doing that. So, so,
Oh, yeah.
the- but
Yeah.
this is not unusual when someone has some kind of a staging experience to find something that is, incredibly out of place, if you will. So, and
Mhm.
also, when Wes is describing this trip across the tarmac to a kind of a processing station and then stepping into this tube. Now, this tube conveyance, I don't know how many times I've heard about it. Many, many, many. And it's always described the same way, where there is brilliant light both at the top, at the bottom. It's a kind of a cylinder, brilliant light at the top, at the bottom, and the individual in it sometimes feels as if they're stretched, and they generally have no idea about what's up and what's down. So
Mhm.
this is some type of conveyance that is used by evolved ETs, and either it's a kind of beam me up Scotty thing where they're dealing with our actual physical matter, or it's an etheric process, and we really don't know at this point because it's unclear sometimes what the involvement is. If the individual is having completely physical involvement, in other words, if they're being, as in a sense, kidnapped or in their physical
Right.
bodies, taken somewhere, beamed out, whatever, or if it is an etheric event, which could be compared to a kind of astral projection technique, and this seems to be what we see as experiencers become more mature and more comfortable with their role. We see less physical experience and more, if I may say, psychoetheric, physical etheric experience.
And you're talking about things like dreams and hypnagogic
Hmm.
states, right?
Hmm.
And I think we had talked a bit about that
We did
um,
indeed. Yes.
Leslie as well, and we talk about it on the show because that does seem to be a sort of gateway area
Hmm.
of being able to make contact where you're conscious, but you're just kind of in that in between zone. Some people talk about maybe riding a bike or a motorcycle or something like that where they're just lack of better words, spacing out, and they're just kind of
Yeah.
Hmm.
on autopilot, and then the thing happens.
Well,
Yeah.
remember that evolved races, I'm not even going to use the term evolve, but beings that are even like 50 feet ahead of us chronologically, they use the speed of thought. They use telepathic communication, and math are the creative tools of at least our part of the universe. But the speed of thought is something that we are in fact learning, I believe, by our engagement with the internet. We are practically at the speed of thought, and right now we're wearing the training wheels of it. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a necessary step to telepathic communication, which is how, as if I'm to understand what I'm told by so many dear people, that is how beings communicate who speak different languages and have different. There is no need for a linguistic barrier when you're talking about telepathic language, because I believe it is primarily symbolic and emotional. So if so, messages are communicated rather instantaneously, and also, I have been told by several of these dear experiencers that I work with that there are beings that choose to explore the universe by projecting holographically, if you will.
Hmm.
So that may be a process as well. And I know Wes is going to talk probably a little bit later about ultra terrestrials and such, but
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think that some of the beings that we are engaging with, it's not so much of where or when they are. They simply are, and they are in a different vibrational spectrum from what we can see. I did have one lovely gal that I worked with who was a lifelong experiencer, and she told me about a little journey around the solar system she took with one of her ET guides that she was very close to, and she said, show me your planet, show me where you come from. And the answer was, well, I can show you where, sort of, but you won't be able to see it because it is vibrating at a different level that you can perceive. So when we talk about our solar system, we're not talking about 9 planets. We're talking about, I think, various layers of existence,
Yeah.
many of which are completely capable of communicating with us and helping us and engaging with us. They're more like our cousins, many of the beings that I think we engage with.
Sort of like the dark matter, right? We were talking
Mhm,
about dark matter last week, and we
mhm.
know how to measure it, and that's about all we know about it. We think it may be connected to this or that,
We don't even know if it's
but,
matter.
but yeah, it's a
Ah,
maybe more
yeah.
appropriately named, but it
Yeah.
passes right through us. We don't see it. Um, it's almost like it's at a different vibrational level,
Yes,
and the universe
frequency,
is mostly
vibration.
made of this stuff.
Mhm.
You
Which
were
So
is
talking.
ironic. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Wes.
Leslie.
No, no, I nothing. Go ahead, Wes.
Chris, you were talking about access points or access gateways, and hypnosis has definitely got to be one of those because we're in an altered state of
Mhm,
consciousness. In
mhm.
sleep, we're in an altered state of consciousness. So that makes us in either state or just in waking state very accessible. So it's easy for others to reach in, whether that's an alien or a magician for that matter. We're very accessible in those states.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think? Well, actually, there was a question here. I'm gonna just scroll back a little bit. A lot of comments up there. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining. And it was about it was from Carol, and she had asked about the phone.
The
Oh
rotary.
yeah, there she is. She has.
Yeah.
What about the black rotary phone? Stood out as wrong. Like, what was wrong about it? That just
Well,
Uh,
it was a
so
it was a black rotary phone from 1956 in an
Mhm.
environment that was being created for West to seek his trust or acceptance of, shall I say, the early 90s, something like
yeah,
that.
80s, 90s.
80s.
So
Late
it was
80s,
at a
early
place.
90s. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
haven't you ask these kids today. I asked one my son doesn't even know what a rotary phone is.
Ours
So,
neither.
Mhm.
this is a real thing. This was an old object. Now, if I remember, Wes, if I don't mean to, if I remember correctly, it wasn't only that there was a black rotary phone from the 50s. There was also what we used to call like a telephone seat. It was like an area where the phone had been placed, and there was a black
Mhm.
pad next to it, the
Yes.
way it would have
Maybe to
been.
take a note. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
back
actually a little
way
black
back in
phone.
the day, there was a little
Yeah,
black
Yeah.
note.
yeah.
So it was a kind
Right
of a
there in the
it was a kind of an artistic, I mean, a beautiful thing, really, when you think about it, that they took the time to harvest these images that they felt would be comforting for you. I
Also,
mean,
that black phone, maybe not the same one, appeared in another experience that was
yes,
creepy as
yes,
hell.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sure about if it's a point of gravity for me, a central point for me in two
Oh,
experiences.
Hmm.
A focal point.
like an identifier
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you said trust. Like my grandparents had a rotary phone way past the time that
Yes.
people had moved on to touch tone phones, and push the button, but it's still corded.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
had
you
like
know
this
it,
really
man.
old school one. And I
Yeah.
remember that, right? So you would kind of trust that because the older generations at this time in the 80s absolutely were hanging on to those
Hmm.
rotary phones and they were built like tanks. They weren't
Hmm.
broken.
God, they
They
were
were
Right.
built.
heavy, man. They were like a murder weapon. My
They were.
grandfather actually invented color telephones. If you can imagine that before that they
Really?
didn't have a material that could hold color and blah
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah. Yeah, he
Really?
showed me a
Wow.
prototype which is kind of creepy. It was like aqua. I'd love to have it now. And it was
Wow.
made
Yeah.
out of God knows what kind of material, but yeah, that was a thing that they actually took a long time to develop. I don't know what those old black phones were made out of. What was that? What was it? Was
I
it
don't know.
What was
funny
I'm
how
or
sure
did
lots of
Probably
people were
lead.
killed by
lead?
phones.
yeah.
Just kidding.
Lead. Probably. Probably.
They
Yeah.
were made out of the hearts
Yeah.
of booking
Yeah.
agents.
Yeah.
Gosh, oh my God.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, but I digress. So, uh,
Oh, let's see. Carol goes on to say, was the rest of the room set up for the same time frame for the phone to fit in?
So the answer to that is no. The second time the phone showed up, yeah, no, sorry, no, both times. I was present day, and the phone was very much out of place in both instances. In the second instance, it was just, as I said, it was just a creepy thing. Where somebody was trying to contact me and it scared the bejesus out of me. And I don't know why, actually. It's one of the few frightening incidents I've had. Most of them are quite positive.
Why was
That's
it creepy?
interesting. Yeah.
Because there was a voice on the other end that was just making a sound, maybe something like a moan. And I felt I couldn't take the telephone receiver away from my ear. It was like I'm in mortal danger feeling. That's what I felt through the phone. Nobody said anything, and I hung it up, and it rang a couple more times, and I hung it up, and that led to just another encounter, another alien experience I had. But the first part with the phone was pretty terrifying, actually.
It's just one of those things you just know, kind of like when you're having an astral experience and you just know
Yeah,
that
you
light in the
have
corner is
have
the evilest thing
It's
in the
like,
universe.
yeah,
It's out to get you. Don't make it happen.
isn't it interesting that in the Matrix, the phone, an antique phone, is used to as a
yeah.
signal and a communicator, and I've often wondered about that
Right.
because I was working with Wes long before most of those films came out, so there was no connection, but it is
Yeah.
I think significant. I think many images, ideas, things that are going to help us open our mind are just kind of in the atmosphere. Thoughts are things, and I think some of them, some of
Yeah.
these positive ideas are just sort of free floating, if you will, in the matrix. And some of them dissemble down, and many of us in meditation or whatever will pick up various things. But thoughts are things, and we have a lot of help. We have a lot of help out there right now at this very trying time. And, I think in a way, what's going on with I'm going to say our galactic cousins and brothers and sisters, is there's a kind of a hands off policy I mean, if you think of us as unruly teenagers, it's kind of a good way to think of us.
Yes.
Unruly teenagers who are interested in self satisfaction, who have no filters, all of that. This is the kind of stuff that is going on. The idea is that those teenagers learn um, self discipline and how to solve problems, and it feels a lot like that. Like they can do only so much, and they can put ideas into our environment and work with us individually, but in the end, those of us who have incarnated as Homo sapiens sapiens, we have a responsibility to care for the planet, a responsibility to abolish hateful behaviors
Yes.
and infuse the world with love. That's that was
Hmm.
the Adamic responsibility. That's what Adam was supposed to do. I mean, this is nothing new, and we're not bloody doing it.
No, no, we're not. I can't agree with you more. We are not. And we
No,
should
no, we
be.
totally agree with you. And while we agree with all those points and feel the same way, I sometimes think that the agenda, if it's an agenda of whatever it is that's out there, isn't always kind and clean the
Yeah,
planet.
yeah,
Be
yeah.
green, guys. But that is a common message. I mean, there's
Yes.
certain experiences that seem outright terrifying.
Right.
You're so right, and I don't want to be like, Pollyanna and just saying that, oh, all this is peace, love, and groovy,
Right.
because the fact is that there are terrifying experiences that take place. Now, thank God we have passed the point where we are locked into the what I would call the Truman or the Eisenhower agreement with the Zeta Reticulates. We're no longer really seeing these manipulative gray experiences where they're harvesting DNA. That is, if I treat someone like that, they have to be at least my age. I'm and
Yeah.
in my 60s, so it's not w-
Wow.
really part of the current thing because that agreement timed out. But I just want to let Wes speak to that because he has had some very, not a huge amount, but some extremely traumatic experiences. And I would just like to posit that the worst things that happen to these dear people who are special and psychic and have chosen to be here are the collaborative programs between certain ETs and our own military industrial complex.
Yes.
We don't need any help being horrendous to each other. And the worst things that I've ever heard have come from that origin. And I know that, and I believe that Wes, even though he mostly has engaged with some very beautiful, highly evolved beings, I think somehow he's on the radar because some very bad things have happened. And Wes, I'll turn that over to you as you feel
That's fantastic.
you want to
Before you go,
disclose.
I just want to comment that nature is cruel. If we
Yeah.
look around,
Mhm.
we see the animals. They're very cruel to each other, and the way nature works
Hmm.
for its preservation is very cruel. But we as humans do seem to be like that one level up where we're able to recognize that cruelty Name
We
it.
can. We can.
So
We can. We
we
are
can decide.
spirits in a material world. We
Oh
are
gosh.
a high. We're a, as Sting said. We're a hybrid being. We
Mm.
are. We are partially related to the Denisovans or maybe
Yes.
the Neanderthals, but we
Both.
also
Yeah.
have this huge infusion, if you wish, Anunnaki DNA,
Yes.
Atlantean DNA, whatever you think. We got a big infusion of and a huge bump up in the evolutionary sequence from some very, very humanoid DNA. And I think there's been more than one occasion of that. I mean, look how diverse we look at, even as humanoids. We have
Yeah.
Asioids, we have and my goodness, the people in Australia are so ancient, there isn't
Yes.
even any corollary to who they are related to. They are the most ancient people on the face of the earth. So
Yes.
I think there were many infusions that occurred. I mean, we've been rebooted like what, 3 times
Even
that we
more than
know
that.
of?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that we know of. Chris and I think it's been that goes way back.
Yeah, you would think
Way
there were
back.
civilizations like way before.
over and over again, and you can think of the Vikings as a ragtag
Thanks, Mitchell.
remnant of a magnificent Hyperborean civilization. The Vikings were just they were regressed, and they were the remnants of what was once great civilization, and we see that from all the cataclysms that we have endured. But we're tough. We are tough little buggers.
Resilient.
And
Yes.
maybe it's that diversity. Maybe we're unique, in the universe, and that we are the result of so much contribution. We are tough, and we're curious. And I pray every day for the illumination, or the just just the idea of being kind, takes place, so that we can openly engage with these beautiful relatives of ours, some of whom are oscillating at a higher vibration, so it's very difficult to see them in the physical, or it's hard for them to manifest in the physical, I would say.
Agreed.
We
Agreed.
agree.
I love the way you think.
Yes.
Shout out to Reginald, your guest, for his comment. That was nice, and I totally understand him. I get it. Very few can do this. We've both had, Leslie and I both had people come to us at shows or on air and say, I couldn't tell anyone else. I'm afraid to tell anyone else. I'm all about taking first steps, no matter how small they are. So
Absolutely. And right now, or lately, I have been working with an organization called Opus, and it was founded by Les Velez, who was with, of course, MUFON for many years, and it's very wide open in the sense that it's supportive, and they're embracing paranormal experiences and all kinds of stuff. So, if anyone would like to connect with some beautiful individuals who will listen to you and understand, as opposed to making a MUFON report. Not that those people aren't beautiful too, because I work with MUFON, but it's kind of a different thing. If you're not interested in making a report about, lights in the sky or encounters or whatever, do try to find Opus. I think it is called,
and they deal with paranormal, among other kinds of
yeah.
experiences. So not strictly abductions. In fact, maybe not even abductions very often.
That's right, and they will listen
Oh.
to you. They will counsel you. I'm one of their vetted mental health practitioners, but there are many others who are far more qualified than me, who are psychiatrists and psychologists. So you can too, if you have any questions and you just want to, engage. Opus is a wonderful place to do that.
Les is
Oh,
great.
that's
We
great.
interviewed him recently.
Oh,
He is just the nicest man.
what a
He's really neat, really
soulful
deep.
and an author. His latest book is an amazing, but what a soulful, lovely individual he is, and all the people that work with him
Yeah.
seem to reflect that, as far as I know.
Hey there, Echo Leaf. Yes, Les Velez. We talked to him last year, and I remember him
Oh,
talking about Opus
oh,
then.
wonderful.
And yeah, great guy. Great
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
Super. Where can our audience find Opus if they're interested?
I believe it's opusnetwork.org.
That
And
sounds familiar. I wish I
yeah,
could remember. Yeah.
it's opusnetwork.org, and you can reach them there and engage with the website and everything else.
Yeah, that's right. I just checked that. I'll put that out in our chat so you
Oh,
guys
thank
check
you.
it out.
Thank you so much.
You're
They're very,
welcome.
really helpful, because not everybody who's listening to the show tonight wants a regression or wants to pursue that route. It's an individual decision, and it's not right for everybody. So, I think a good place to start, if you have had some kind of experience of high strangeness, no matter what form that might take, that might be a good place to start.
Oh, we love that because although the connections between ufology and the paranormal have been out there for a long time, at
Mhm.
least the 80s, but probably a lot longer than that.
Mhm.
People like Jacques Vallée and whatnot
Oh, oh
talking about
yeah.
this. It seems like we're at least getting closer to paths crossing, and it's something we talk about a lot on this show,
Yes.
in
Indeed.
particular for that reason, because we think the phenomenon is absolutely related.
Yeah.
They're not incompatible, right, Chris? They are actually compatible. They're congruent. They're cohesive.
Mhm.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
In
They're very
fact,
similar, but not the same, really.
I might even say that, part of the ET, if not agenda or priority list, is to engage with individuals that have high PSI abilities. Because, I mean, if you're going to be working, say you're going to be working with someone like Wes, who has high PSI abilities, right?
Mhm.
You want to be able to work with someone who can not only astral project if they're on a project, but someone who is essentially capable of telepathic communication. So my feeling is that in a lot of cases, that is absolutely what the ETs are looking for when they are, abducting, taking children and testing them. They're looking for beings that are able to communicate easily. I mean, imagine if you were Jane Goodall, right? And you're in the middle of Africa, and you come across an unknown species of ape, or whatever you want to call it, and some of them, three or four of them, have humanoid larynxes and can actually formulate words. Now, wouldn't you want to spend your time working with those three or four accelerated simians? I
Absolutely.
think, and I hate to put us in that category, but I think that's really what we're talking, because
Yeah,
people, we have a wide scale of development on this planet. My God, it's a wide scale. We have beings that are born into this cycle, like, Charles Manson. We have the lowest of the low, and
that's
then
right.
we have amazing spiritual creative beings that are born here. I mean, the Dalai Lama, I mean, Duke Ellington. I mean, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? We
sure.
have a huge panorama
Maybe
of
Miles, maybe.
development. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the reasons that we are so attractive to various species, because of our diversity.
Yeah. And hopefully it's not just so they can train us better.
I don't think so, because they can only train. They
Like
can only
punitive
train
rules.
those beings that are, below the Mason-Dixon line in America. That's about it. That's all they got. No, excuse me. Sorry. Forgive
Yeah.
me. Meep. Put
Good
that back.
word. Good
That's
word, Leslie.
okay. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
so
okay.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just suffering from the post Trump phage. Like it,
Oh, we all are. We all are.
it's all good. But what I'm saying is, we do have people of varying awareness, and there can be hyper aware spiritual people in every part of the world, including the American South, including every part of this world. There are enlightened beings every place, I think. I really do.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, no, we agree, and that makes a lot of sense as far as having the faculties to communicate would be the more chosen, which would be our side people, right?
It
Um,
seems so. It seems so, right? Because the dream life is very heavy duty with experiencers. They're always traveling. In fact, Wes, you got to speak to this because half of your life is spent traveling and engaging in activities with evolved beings.
Well, I guess all I can say is that I've never seen any of these creatures speak with their mouths,
Hmm.
but clearly understood them always. And I get that they understand me. And really, whatever language we speak here on this planet, 100 and some odd languages, that that doesn't enter into the equation. We're talking about thoughts in their purest forms, thoughts and intentions, and they're very good at transmitting those. Sometimes they're directives or directions, and sometimes it's just like, oh my God, he's becoming aware. Pull him out, and that's happened to me a number of times.
it's excellent. I love. Do they speak to you in symbols? I think that was mentioned earlier. Wow.
Yeah,
Dogs when they can't talk. All right.
there's some symbols, Chris, I would say, but a lot of it's just ideas. You're being watched. You're going to be healed. Look at that woman over there. That's supposed to be your wife, but that woman over there has been switched off. So she just looks like a robot. So lots of it are just thought directions. And sometimes, like, they're going, no, 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 because they want us as unaware as possible. So our responses will be as honest as possible. And that's what they're looking at.
Are they showing you pictures, or I mean, they're not saying words, right? So,
No words.
what are you hearing the words in your head like a clairaudient experience, or you're just seeing pictures and images that kind of make sense to what they're trying to say, and you know what it means?
It's kind of like clairaudience, I guess, if you want to put it that way. It's basically move to the next person, uh, go out the door, walk into that forest, look me in the eye. I can't say I've ever heard the words, so it's a direction that just strikes right in that part of the brain that says, okay, I got that. You
Hmm.
know how what we see is interpreted by the brain, what we hear is interpreted by the brain. So there must be a micro delay, right? Here, there's no delay that I can tell. It's just boom, I got it.
Great Khan says maybe are missing a beat with thought, and that's a great point, right? So,
Right
say like
there.
remote
Yeah.
viewing, where you're just opening yourself up to something and just writing without thinking about what it is, or drawing, or whatever it is, writing descriptives. That's supposed to be something that's done just without thinking about it. If you think about it, that's where you lose track, right? Like you
Without
said.
naming it in particular, without naming the object in particular, just describing it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Interesting.
And good point, Greg.
Hmm.
So what led you up to meeting Leslie? How did that work? You had the experience you mentioned earlier with the phone. Um,
Yeah, so I waited a long time actually from the 80s experience, always distancing myself from those folks that were called abductees or experiencers. I was not one of those. Now I am one of those, but that took about 20 years to process. So I sat on it, becoming increasingly frustrated, becoming, I thought, a little unstable in my behavior, and how I was working or not working. I don't think anybody on the college front noticed that. I noticed it. And so, and the little sleep I do get, I was getting less. I'm an insomniac anyway, but I was getting less, and I was afraid to close my eyes at night. So that's just, that's not living in a good world.
Oh, no,
So,
not at
so
all.
eventually I had to say, and I checked with a couple of good friends, and I had to say, okay, that's go in here, go down the rabbit hole and explore your 80s experience, which interestingly only came up when we compelled it to come up. Everything else but that came up.
Hmm.
Wow.
hmm.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
I do.
And there were no demigorgons in it, right? It's my Stranger Things reference. Sorry.
What is that? I'm so old fashioned. I'm out of the loop, man. I don't know what's happening. I think you referred to a hip television show that I don't know
The
what's
kids are
going
talking about
on.
it. I don't
I've
know.
still got a Betamax. What am I talking about? I'm not that bad, but anyway, Stranger Things.
Mm.
Very cool.
Yeah. Carol-
You know, when Wes first came to me, I have to say that I think we had a phone conversation for, well, I'm sure we did first because I always do kind of an intake on the phone. And I was very concerned about his level of anxiety. He felt to me to be really suffering, you know, with anxiety, and I was compelled, and I thought, well, maybe if even if I'm not maybe the best person to see this guy, I'm going to see him because he's not sleeping. Weird stuff is going on. He doesn't know what's happening, and he's obviously sane, and he's been referred by my friend. So I'm gonna talk to him. And at that point, even though I was already a licensed hypnotherapist and working for some years. Um, I hadn't specialized very long in working with experiencers. Wes was really one of the first people that I was able to work with, at least in an in-depth way, because we were able to see each other for many, many sessions. But I just knew the universe just said to me, "You have to work with this man. You know, he needs you, and you have to do it." And we did. And on the first session that we had together, well, first of all, he was an effortless hypnotic subject. I think that's also another thing that comes with PSI abilities and such. He was effortless to get into the alpha state, and he went down into the theta state. And if it wasn't the first session, you'll have to correct me, Wes, but I believe that we were able to regress him back to one of his first encounters, one of his first experiences, and he couldn't have been more than 3 years old.
Wow.
So, and when we went through this journey, and when I brought him out of trance, his main he kept saying over and over again, "Is this real? Is this real? Is this real?" And in answer to that question then and now, that experience is more real than what we're doing right now.
That's amazing. It must be something to have the thought recollection from a time when you normally wouldn't remember, like being 3 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, it
Having-
was
I have very
I
few memories from that point in my life. Normally, very few.
Sure, I think that's true of most people.
yeah.
Mhm.
That is a typical time though, 3 years old. That is a very typical time when interventions and contact begin. If someone is either on the radar or is being groomed for this program or being even groomed for the secret space program like Randy Kramer, who knows? This is the time when interventions begin. I had one client who even had a memory. Oh my goodness. And it's so creepy to think about. I can hardly say it, but a memory of babies, happy, healthy, just babies on a kind of a comfortable uh, conveyor belt passing underneath diagnostic machines.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and my client was one of these babies, but I mean that's very rare because that was a memory of less than a year. I mean, it's very unusual for
Wow.
someone to have become forth with a soul memory of that of that time. But I and then I did hear a very very similar thing from someone else. That's the thing. That's the advantage. I don't just hear these amazing things, once. I hear them from unrelated people, unrelated by culture, unrelated by language, unrelated by age, or you name it. So, um, by the time people come to see me, they usually have exhausted many other avenues of treatment. Now,
Hmm.
thank God, Wes didn't get all carried away and all of that kind of stuff. But many people that I see have been under psychiatric care and have been medicated with this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And uh, by the time they see me, I'm kind of like the, as we say in America, a last chance Texaco. I'm like the last stop, on the mental health care, chain. And and even though I'm the last stop, I can often do a lot of good. I
Which is
can
wonderful.
I
You
can
can
li-
help them.
I can listen to these dear people. I can believe them. And also I don't want you to think that I just if and obviously, and Wes will concur with this, not everybody who comes to see me with these ideas is an experiencer. There is always going to be a certain percentage of people that see me who are having mental health issues, delusional mental health issues.
Mhm.
So I do a very extensive intake. And I usually have a really good idea about that by the time I'm done. And I have a number of wonderful colleagues who are psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists who are completely open to the idea of extraterrestrial contact because mental illness doesn't necessarily preclude the idea that contact has taken place, if you know what I mean. all
Yes.
all that it is that it's outside of my legal scope of treatment, right?
Right.
So if I suspect we're talking about some kind of dissociative disorder, God forbid, some kind of schizophrenia or what have you, I
Yes.
am obligated. I have to refer these dear people on, but I do so to colleagues who are also open-minded, and that's the best I can do.
That's
That's
awesome. That's
wonderful.
awesome. And I think, Wes, when we talked last, you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be wrong on this. So we meant talk about magic, sorcery, things of that nature.
Probably. I've
I'm reminded because
I believe
one of our
so.
audience members there, Ken Allen, is a sorcerer, and we recently talked
Yeah,
to him. Hi, Ken. How you doing?
let's talk
Um,
about that.
I think there are definitely some tie-ins, and maybe we've had some experiences since we talked that even more, hit home for us in that arena as far as there being a correlation between, say, even deities and what we call aliens.
we it's my position that we have help from the many. Some of those many are other versions of us in the omniverse and space time, feeding us info slightly ahead of time. So if we listen, we make wise decisions. Some of them are deities. Some of them you might call demons. A lot of magicians I know have a concept of what they call the high self or higher self.
Mhm.
Some used to call it holy guardian angel. I do not call it that, but I call it a self that's ahead of myself, ahead in space time.
Wasn't
So
it
it's
the
a,
will that Aleister Crowley was talking about to meet your holy guardian angel, so to speak?
yeah, that came from his era pretty much. Crowley did talk about his holy guardian angel. The lingo has changed over the years depending on the age. I don't mean how old we are. He existed in an age that he created, the age of Telema or the age of will, and so he couldn't see much past that age. But magi can't. They're pretty focused on what they do. Then they enter into their own worlds, and that's where they do their work. But Crowley laid the groundwork for lots of us that came after him to understand that magic is doing your will, capital W.
That's cool. I had a question out here for you from Dr. Michael Lynch. What's going on there, Mike? He asked, how many scratch marks did you find in your body? Did you ever have any physical trauma in any way from,
I don't have a lot of physical trauma. I've never had a lot. I've had some Fortunately, one morning when I woke up, I had a couple of triangles on my chest
Oh,
that I got a photo of. It's an awful photo, but I got it. So I had those, and they were still hot. So it was like I alternately thought I was owned, and I thought I was branded, and then
Mark.
I thought, yeah, marked, and then I thought I didn't really know, but they were interlocking triangles. I've had a couple other triangles on my body at various times. No scoop marks that I'm aware of, but they're probably there. So no implants that I'm aware of, but periodically I'd wake up with something on me.
And it
But
goes away. Does it go? It goes away in
it
like a
went away
day.
in a couple of days,
Huh.
and I just thought it was curiosity because I've been through some experiences that hopefully they were dreams, and if they weren't, oh well. I don't think they were dreams, quite honestly. But needles stuck in my eye and stuff like this.
Oof.
Really, really gross stuff that I felt. It's like I couldn't. It wasn't like, oh, it's so dreamlike. A needle's being stuck in my eye. It wasn't
Yeah,
pleasant at all.
right.
No,
It'd be horrifying.
have that.
So
Yeah,
they
so stuff
both
like that.
good and bad. But do you think there is relevance to the triangle itself? It reminds me immediately of like Solomonic magic, because we were talking about sorcery, where you're going to conjure the demon or evoke some entity within a triangle.
So that could really lead us down a whole other night of discussion. Because my brand of magic, I don't stand in a protective circle. I don't summon demons.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is to use Crowley's term, I do my will. I recognize, just like we all do on this show, and everybody that's watching or listening, we have a hand in our destinies. Not necessarily what the final outcome will be, but how we get there. And that's
Yeah,
my interest.
for sure. I just wondered if you
Yeah.
saw like a relevance, or what do you
I
think?
didn't. Yeah, interestingly enough, I didn't. Although I do work with angles, I do work with symbols.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If I could just interject for a moment, but Wes has been told that he has had interventions, or I don't want to call them implants because they're not implants, but technology put in his etheric self.
Hmm.
In other words, not in his physical body, kind of in the sense of maybe being like a step up transformer, and that these devices, if I can call them that, once they've done their job, they simply dissipate. And that's actually true with a lot of implants that have been reported. I mean, even physical implants. I think the crude work, the little balls up in the nasal cavity. I think the crude work is all being done by the secret space program, and
Okay.
their attempts to um, uh, you know grab whatever technology they can. But I think that's the crude work. But Wes has, I believe, if we are to, in the communications, he has received a number of implants, but they have been in his etheric realm. So we get a lot of I mean, this is hard stuff, I know, to get your head around, but we get a lot of references to intelligence and information being exterior to the hardware, to the
Right. The
physical
physical
brain.
body,
I mean, that's
more of
where
an
I'm
tool.
always getting reference, and that's very hard for us to understand.
Yeah.
Comprehend.
If you
Yeah,
throw
to
in like
comprehend.
the word consciousness into that,
Oh,
and you're
Yeah,
saying that some sort of add-on or tool for consciousness,
indeed.
well, that's a almost disturbing, really. But
Well,
I don't know. It could be two things. It could be an enhancement, right? Maybe now you're fitted for something bigger than these flesh and blood three-dimensional bodies, or
the meat bags, as he
the
likes
meat
to
bags.
say.
the meat
Yeah,
suits, the
the meat
meat
suit.
suits. Yeah.
Or maybe it means something more nefarious. I don't know. We have a
Well,
question also out here. I'm gonna throw
There's
it
a
to
couple
Wes.
of them.
Real fast. Michael Lynch asked you how many times you have been abducted.
Yes.
Do you have an idea? I know it's been a lot.
Yeah. So when I did my second book, I wanted to categorize things. scenarios, aliens, places, spaces. Anyway, so I'm going to say probably 60 to 70 discrete experiences.
Wow.
Cheapers.
Yeah, that's
That's
up
a
there.
lot.
That's up there. It's like a lifetime. You know, this is
I-
Well,
a
they
Yeah.
don't stop. They don't
great.
stop, Chris. You
Yeah.
don't get to sign off.
Yeah.
We've had a few abductees come on and say the same thing as you did. That they don't stop.
It's like a
Mhm.
lifetime of it.
It's a
And
lifetime.
they don't always know the number because
Some
it's
wish
high,
that
you know?
they have.
Well,
Some others are like, hey, here I am. Let's just take
We
me.
believe them.
Yeah.
You know,
I
Yeah,
think
experiences.
I think one of the things that was maybe most helpful to Wes, and it is most helpful to many experiencers, is if we go through the process of interlife regression with them. Now, in the interlife, which essentially means where we go in between physical lifetimes, and if you wish to call that heaven, you may, or whatever. I believe it's a vibrational a realm that is just right here next to us. But at any rate, in the interlife, we go through a process where we bring the individual very quickly through their most recent past life, and then they enter, what we call heaven, and they have their various experiences. And there are commonalities. I mean, individuals have to have they have commonalities of experience, and they also they go through uh, a time with their counsel. And one of the most mind-bending things that I began to experience when I was working with experiencers is that when they would go to the council, I would have them describe the individuals that they saw. And usually, it's a type of a Merlin guy, a Gandalf guy, it's these kinds of beings.
yeah, I
But
love
I
it.
began to hear about beings that were absolutely not physical, not humanoid. They had elongated skulls. Some of them were blue. I mean, it was, and I didn't precipitate. I would just say, tell me how the members of your council look. You know what I mean? I mean, I have to stay completely vanilla. I mean, mega vanilla. I can't infer anything when I'm working in regression, or any other time for that matter. So I began to understand that what we were looking at here were souls, some of whom are have lived in on other planets, and maybe that's their home planet. I believe that Wes has an attachment to a certain type of being and a certain planetary system where he existed before in many lifetimes. But, but what happens is, in the council, you decide what you're going to do, how you're going to come in, who your parents are going to be. And sometimes, like a father can be just a sperm donor. If you want to get in, because many of our great avatars have been born in humble circumstances, right? You come in when you can come in the time you want to come in. And so I began to see that this desire to come in and help the Homo sapiens sapiens out of their primordial slime, engage with other light beings. This is a choice and a calling.
That's
And
fantastic. Do either of you think that there are different factions trying to get in and maybe have their own bones to pick with each other?
Good question.
No, definitely. I predominantly work with one race, or am worked over by one race, and there are a couple of others. But there are those. I don't think there are a lot of ominous races out there, but I've heard of some. A couple of those probably were involved with me, but predominantly for me, it's the good guys. But we've identified multiple species as that's probably common knowledge now, literature, anywhere between 70 and 80,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that's just guesswork. There's
Yeah,
probably a
yeah.
lot
It's
more.
Yeah, it's
Probably a
interesting.
lot more. I mean, those are the, as Paul Hellyer said, that's the amount of species that he knew the Canadian government was engaging with, and that was
That's right.
years
Oh, I
ago
love that man. Yes.
before he
Passed
passed
away.
away.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely true. Now, I know that now Captain Randy Kramer, great friend of Wes's and myself, he has talked about his experiences extensively in the secret space program, and he talked specifically about some reptilian races that are, rogue races, and they go around, harvesting all of the resources out of planets. That's very scary. It's kind of like Independence Day. It's a little
That's right.
Right.
really disturbing. But they haven't been to Earth, and Randy Kramer talks about some very dramatic battles with these particular types of reptilians, and yet there are reptilians who are completely peaceful and have treaties with us, apparently.
Mhm.
Apparently, according to not only Randy but various other secret space program participants, there are several races of reptilians that live underground on Mars and have for millennia. And it's just we just keep our distance, right? Because
Yeah,
we've got
yeah.
bases and stuff going on there. So anyway, that's
Right.
Yeah.
all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
It's like the
So
moon. The
The
same
moon.
thing.
Moon is
yeah,
pretty.
the
It's
Lunar
shaded.
Defense
Moon
Force
is
and the
shaded.
Mars, same
So,
kind of thing.
yeah,
And
got it.
Randy Kramer has said that we pretty much have control over who comes into our solar system right now. So
Well, that's good news.
there is no reason for us to be fearful, because there have been defensive forces against aggressive reptilians since the 50s. Okay, so we don't have to freak out about that.
The reptilians, I gotta say, they always get a bad rap, right?
They
Everybody thinks
do. And again,
they're
it's
the bad
some of
ones.
them. It's
And their
some of
first
them.
mental image is kind of like a slee stack or something
Yes.
from Land of the
Mm,
Lost,
Good job. Yes.
right? I mean, that's what I think of.
Yes,
Right?
what I think of them
I
too.
immediately think of slee stacks going to come out. And, speaking of that, is it that far a stretch to think there was a time on this planet that it was ruled by reptiles and
Right.
dinosaurs in the form of dinosaurs, and we had millions of T-Rexes, of which we've only found a couple hundred, but mass extinction events took them out. They
mhm,
apparently burrowed in the ground and
mhm.
evolved into the reptiles we have today, right? So what
Supposedly.
happened to that consciousness? I suppose maybe there was more to it.
Well,
Maybe they didn't
we have reptilian aspects to our brains, the amygdala of the human brain, which they don't use this term anymore, the reptilian brain, but
Hmm.
in
Right.
fact, there is a very deep aspect of our brain that was evolved in a reptilian way. So, we're mammals, but we got a lot of mojo going on. We got all
Yeah,
our
we did.
stuff
Sure.
going on.
Had to
We
come from
really, really
somewhere,
do.
right?
And
They do.
which
Evolved from something.
that's right.
Something.
That's right. Anyway, that and who is to say? Well, in fact, Wes will tell you that he's had several experiences, and I can tell you that many individuals that I've worked with have had these same experiences, where they are, if they're undergoing a medical procedure, they are these procedures are conducted by, and they are also kind of led around by, what a lot of people call the brown doctors.
Mhm.
And these, Wes, in fact, just referred to these brown-skinned individuals. So there is a race of brown-skinned reptilians that are experts in medical matters and DNA, and they're always involved with these children things, but they don't show themselves. But they're always omnipresent, and they never allow themselves to be seen, because they don't want to frighten anyone.
That's
Well,
interesting.
that's kind of them, I suppose.
Hmm.
Echo Leaf asks, what race works with you, Wes?
I'm going to just do some guesswork here. They have a nature like Pleiadians, definitely. Pleiadians really sing to me, I have to say. But physically, I would describe them as tall whites.
Tall whites.
Tall whites.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have certainly heard of them,
Absolutely.
and yeah, that's cool. Reginald says my guide Tech Prime is a reptilian soul from Orion. He's an amazing soul.
Mhm.
Oh,
Reggie,
soul comes up twice. I like
There
that.
you go.
Yep.
See what I mean? As above, so below. All kinds of people, all kinds of temperaments, all
Mhm.
kinds of dispositions. There are wonderful, benevolent reptilians. They exist.
Echo Leaf says, "Well, tickle my amygdala."
yeah,
Amygdala.
I
Said it
think
right.
that's the amygdala.
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 amygdala,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were just talking about the
and
amygdala.
you spelled it right. God bless you. I'm like the worst speller
yeah.
in the world. I wouldn't
I'm
have been
gonna
able
look.
to do that.
I'm gonna look up her name
We
too.
got a smart
Your
audience
name.
out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
do.
we
You
do.
do.
We do. Cool guys. Oh, we love that.
And Carl. Yeah.
Tell us about your books. I
Yeah.
know there's
Wes,
one you wrote together, and you
Mhm.
also have an additional book. Wes,
Mhm. Mhm.
maybe you could lead us on.
So Leslie can also speak to the first book, and then if you want, if I have time, I'll talk about the second one. But the
We have
first one was
really up to you
It's all
guys.
up to you guys.
okay. Thank you. The
well,
first one was based on. You want to go?
I'll just talk about the first one very quickly. It's called Intersections, a true story of extraterrestrial contact, and it really is the story of Wes's evolution, if you wish, as an experiencer. It's about our work together, and it includes many transcriptions from our early sessions, which are I mean, we wanted to like open the door and demystify what might go on in a regression session. So it's all of our work together with my comments and his recollections, and I think and it's actually really only part one. We have a lot more that we have never even included. So I think it's a wonderful journey. And Wes was so gracious to be so open about his experiences and to talk so honestly and
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of the book. It's on you can get it on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.serpo. I mean, wherever you Amazon, you can get it. That's for
You
sure.
have
So
it.
yeah. So Wes, over to you, or over to you. There you go.
There you go.
The second book was just based on my wanting to catalog the experiences to make some sense of them. And so, where were the locales? What kind of race was involved? Were there other people there? What was the scenario was particularly interesting to me. And then I always wanted to talk about the why me question because some of your listeners or viewers may think that they're victims. It's not impossible, but I don't think I am. So I would highly encourage you to think it through and see if it's liberation rather than victimization. So
Mm,
I wanted to talk about why me, and the inner life hypnosis journey helped me validate or authenticate why me was because I chose it. I was in agreement with it. The
Are
big
you saying
mystery
pre-birth? You were in agreement with that?
pre-birth.
We're talking about coming in
Hmm.
to this, taking that consciousness, living in this world.
Exactly, Chris. That was it. And so it was a roll of the dice. Would I ever awaken enough to recognize that? And if I did, then I'm doing my job, and I'm doing my job getting out there talking about it. So I explored every which way it might be why me, but mostly because I chose. Another big reason, and this has to do with my magic practice, is that I'm vulnerable, purposefully vulnerable. I'm not trying to get myself hurt. So don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But I'm vulnerable, so I'll get more information. So I leave myself open enough to get as much info as I can from as many sources as I can. So the last more than third of the book was me, just looking at why this might have been me and saying to other people, this could be you too. I'm not saying every other person's an abductee. And I'm not saying something that goes bump in the night is dangerous or a ghost. But I am saying there's a lot of us out there that need to take a few baby steps and begin to integrate the experiences. So for me, that came late in life when I finally said, got it. Okay, I got it. I got this. And I
Makes sense.
felt a lot better about it. So whether I control future experiences or not doesn't really matter to me as long as I can still participate and talk about them.
Life is like that, right? Life is not,
Mhm.
roses every day. It has its ups and downs. There are bad things that happen to good people and good things that happen to bad people, and we all have all these things happen. So, with the abduction experiences, I take it that a lot of the experiences are good and positive, maybe scary, just from the point of view of that you're asked what the hell's going on with
Yeah.
me, what's
Need
happening to
somebody
me,
like Leslie Mitchell Clark to help you.
help you sort it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where experience maybe weren't so great, right?
Seriously.
They can be just not good experiences at all. But life is kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're saying you feel like you chose it, and it would be the same for anybody, maybe even without those experiences. Like you chose this life, but it isn't perfect. Certainly, our lives are, and I don't think anybody has a perfect life, really.
Mhm.
I was happy to
Maybe
get to
they're
know
lying.
this was part of my life. I was actually relieved and happy to get to know this was part of it. No accident, not put upon me, but
Mhm.
I'm
part
glad
of
you
me.
look at it that way. A lot of
That's interesting.
abductees, a lot of people do not look at it that way.
I
Like you're saying,
know.
it's more victimology than
Yep.
anything.
And once we get in there, most of the time we find out that is really a false perception. And even if we take all of this off the table, we're just in our human life. If we were to take responsibility, say, for the parents that we selected, even just that, imagine how freeing that would be. Like, I would say, yes, my mother is crazy, but she has this, that, and the other. My dad left us, but he had this, that, and the other. So we have to take responsibility in the esoteric realm for the circumstances in which we are here because we decide them. It is not random. We incarnate in soul groups. We change family members, but all of that, whether it has an extra ultra terrestrial factor to it or not, still we all have councils and we all decide if we're going to come in again and how we are going to do that and into which family and into which role.
Hmm.
I love that.
That's great. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful way to think about it. I
Yeah.
like that. And when you say you're vulnerable, Wes, are you saying you are letting, like, taking the ego out of things, letting the guard down, and that makes you more sensitive, maybe psychically, and a sign?
I would say 100% all of those things. It makes me not question the messenger as much as the message, because even people I'm not attracted to and would rather have nothing to do with. Do I want to hear their message or not? Might be the thing. Do I want to hear the message of other selves out there of aliens? Yes, yes, yes to all. I want the info. I want it as pure as I can get it and direct as I can get it. To do that, I have to be what I call safely vulnerable.
Mm.
I like that.
I
Yeah,
like
well
that.
put. Well put.
Yeah.
Open, but some protections in place.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
I think that to communicate with well-intentioned ETs, our old friend John Raffanello, God bless him. Hey Wes, he's passed away some years from now, but
Nice
he was
guy,
a
amazing.
quite an exceptional guy as far as communications with extraterrestrial beings, and he used to say all you have to do is get into, a relaxing mode, turn off your media, whatever, relax in a chair, and send out a message with your mind. If there's any, well intentioned being out there of love, and I would love to communicate with you. And stuff will happen because the speed of thought is instantaneous and it is common to all life. And I know that
It's energy.
It's energy, it's vibration. And Stephen Greer gets these amazing results. I mean, he and his students or what have you go through a certain they go through a certain protocol which is rather Vedic, as I understand, in origin. There's some chanting, some this and some that, but these guys get contact every time. It is amazing. Even if they do it indoors, they'll get energy orbs and all kinds of stuff going. So
So
we are not inferior beings. We are stardust. We are able to do anything that our forebears did. We simply have to accept the possibility that we can. That is all.
yeah, I love that.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, it's of course, sounds a lot like paranormal. I think we were both going to go. To the same
That's exactly
thing.
where we were just going to go. Both
So,
of
yeah,
us
so I
going to
wrote it,
question
yeah,
this.
let's see, we're on
He's
the
like
same page.
paranormal. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So, have you had any experiences, Wes, with like talking to the deceased besides aliens?
Well, my
What's that?
question was because in the beginning of our interview here, you had said alien or species abduction, but you also said spirit abduction, and I would like. Could you please clarify that for me?
You got two
for
questions.
us? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
this is like two questions. It's good. Great two questions. Spirit abduction is abduction of the spirit, abduction of the soul.
Oh, okay.
In my view, I can see where you're potentially going with that. So I think it's abduction of the spirit or abduction of the soul. That
Okay.
part.
Gotcha. And your part now is
Have you talked to the deceased? Have you had
Yes.
experiences with what we would refer to as ghosts?
Oh my gosh. Leslie and I are both in on that one. But
Yeah.
I started out when I was a teenager being interested in psychic phenomena. I was a member of a parapsychological research institute for 9 years. So I got to see the scientific part of that. And I've had experiences all my life, and I continue to, and including talking. One of my sisters died a year ago. My mother died years ago. And they communicate all the time.
Well, that's wonderful.
Wow, that's great.
It's great
That's
to hear.
great. And
Yes.
we relate to that in a big way. So
Yeah.
no, that's fantastic. Where did we want to go?
No, that's what I was going to ask about
The spirit abduction.
Spirit abduction had me. I wrote that down right from the beginning. It was like, okay, wait a minute here.
How are you guys doing for time? I hate to put you on the spot like that, but
I'm a little bit under the weather, so I boosted myself up for the show, but it's a little bit late. It's a little bit late. It's past my bedtime, you guys. I'm an old fart. It's past my bedtime.
You and I are the same. We're both under the weather, so
yeah, I'm a little bit. It's time for me to go hit the sack.
I love this conversation, and
Yes.
I could keep it going all night, but I just want to be respectful. So,
well, we have to come back and see you guys soon.
We're around.
That's all. We'll love to come back and talk to you anytime. It's been such a pleasure to talk to such open-minded, intelligent, lovely people like yourselves. And, you guys are doing so much. We are all here. It's a grassroots movement. Disclosure, and you represent the title of my next book, which is going to be called Midwives of Disclosure, and you guys are midwives of disclosure. Hopefully Wes will help me on that one. I hope.
Well, you give us a platform and you give us a voice, and you're not here to tear a strip off us, and even if you were, that'd be okay. I'd learn from it, but you're here to say, go and say what you need to say, and hopefully we'll all be engaged by this, and I am very engaged with all this tonight.
Guys, thank you so much for having us. I appreciate it so much.
Real fast, where's the best place to find each of you? Some people will hear the podcast.
You can always reach me through my website at which is lightworkhypnosis.com. The website is pretty good. It's had a nice facelift. Actually, I needed the facelift, but I spent the money on the website instead. What do you think? I don't know. But anyway, so you can reach me or you can reach me directly at Leslie, Ley, at lightworkhypnosis.com. And I will get back to you. It may take me a couple days, but I get back to everybody. Don't I, Wes? I do.
Absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
easy to reach, wesgroberts.com. So, yeah, thank you for all the comments I see coming in overnight and for your great questions and engagement. wesgroberts.com. It's that easy.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much
Yes,
for
thank
joining
you.
us. It was great to have you both on.
Again,
And,
yes,
I
love it.
feel a little
Yeah,
special.
thank you very much. Hey, thank you so much.
We
honey.
always have-
Oh,
Okay.
again, okay. Just
Yeah.
say the name.
Have a great
Bye,
night.
sweeties. Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you.
Chris
Have
and
a good one.
Kristen.
Thank
Love
you.
you guys. Bye
Bye,
now.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's all the time we have for Dark Horse Paranormal. We'll see you guys Saturday. Thanks a lot. And thanks for all your questions and joining our chats. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.